Hello students, this video is going to help you figure out how to plan your research paper. So those of you who are still feeling a little bit stuck on your outline and not sure where to go next, you've got your annotated bibliography and your article evaluations done, and you don't know where to go next. I'm going to help you by doing an example of a planning here through this basic outline. You can see I've got the camera turned off because I want you to be able to see the whole window. And so we're going to go through this as an example. And this is a fake example. So please don't take any of the sources that I use and use them in your paper because they're all made up. This is just purely for you to see the process. Okay, so we're going to pretend that my topic is athletics in elementary school. Got my topic figured out, and we're going to pretend like my question is right here. And remember, all of you should have a question because you met with me and we drafted some questions and they're posted on the announcements in your section of your class. So everybody has done that. We met together and came up with our questions. Many of you have revised them, but this was mine. Let's pretend, of course. What are the benefits of exercise and physical activity for elementary school children? So we're going to pretend that this is something I need to consider, and I'm trying to answer this question in my paper. I know the very basics. I need to have an introduction, body, and conclusion, as all papers do. Okay, so let's just start with the very basics and pretend, okay, I've got my research article evaluations. So here I've got a folder and it's got all of them here. You should have a Google Drive folder with your outline, your rough draft, or something that you've been working on, and all of your other materials that you've gathered, like your article evaluations, maybe even your annotated bibliography. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through some just examples of article evaluations and talk to you about how you can take that information that you have gleaned from those articles and put it into this very basic outline and develop a nice plan for your paper. Okay. So now I know that since I'm just starting this paper, I don't really need to worry about my introduction at this point. I do need to worry about the body of the paper because that's where all my main points are going to be described, and that's where all the meat's going to be. I need to figure this stuff out. Then later I can go back and write my introduction and my conclusion because those will just be basically summaries of what the rest of the paper was about. So I'm not going to worry about those two sections first. I'm going to start with the body of the paper. Now, some people who have maybe just they are better at abstract thoughts and they like to just start with the introduction because they know exactly where they're headed in the paper, and that helps them kind of lay out a path. And that's fine. If you like doing that, go for it. I have my topic and my question, but I don't know exactly how this introduction is going to come together. So I'm just going to start with the body because I do have my article evaluations. Now, remember, please don't steal these sources and cite them. They are made up. They are not real. This is just so I can show you an example. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one. And what we're going to see here is we should see 5 article evaluations here that are all around my topic of athletics in elementary school. And so first here we see who the subject of the study was, what kind of a study it was, how the data was gathered, the findings, potential weaknesses, and the significance of the findings. All of these could potentially be relevant pieces of information for my paper. For right now, in the purpose of planning, I'm just going to take the findings themselves. Now, later on, I may be able to come back and I might decide that, you know what, this sentence right here, or these 2 sentences might be a nice introduction to this section I'm writing. And I can copy and paste that right into my paper if I want to. It's not cheating to steal your own writing. So I could use that if I want to. But for now, because I'm just trying to plan it out, I just want the findings themselves. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go to the findings section and I'm going to copy and paste it into my new outline that I'm creating. And I'm also going to be careful that when I do this, I'm going to include the author's names because it's very important that when you are planning, that you are careful to include the authors, okay? Because sometimes you can start writing and start putting things into your outline and you can start drafting your paper and forget where you got the information, okay? So now I'm having trouble getting it on the right line here. It's not wanting to be cooperative with me. So I'm going to do this myself. I'm just going to skip a line. We can add these other labels in later. So my authors here, there's my few main points that I found in this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to get the authors' names. And this is a process you should be doing in yours, okay? Oops, wrong one. Let me try again. Let me find the one we were looking at before. There it is. Okay, so this is the one we were looking at before. The findings say majority of elementary teachers find PE valuable. More than half of elementary teachers do not feel prepared to teach PE. Less than half of elementary teachers have support in teaching PE, and majority believe PE is best taught by a teacher who specializes in the subject. So these are all the findings of this survey that they gave. So that's going to be some things that I discuss, and I want to make sure that if I do discuss it in my paper, that I've got these authors ready to cite. Every time I write something, I always want to include who said it because it shows that everything I have said is research-based, and that's very important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the authors' names here just so I don't forget. All right, so there's my first set of data that I pulled from my first article evaluation. I'm actually going to go now, since I've got that, I'm going to go and pull up my second one, and we'll see if we can find some similarities between the first one and the second. And if not, that's okay. They don't have to be necessarily all the same, but we're going to see what we get. Okay. Hopefully they're at least related to my topic. Now, if I'm looking through these and I find, you know, after reading this again and looking at the details, I decide this isn't really going to work for my paper. And if that's the case, that's okay. You're not married to any of these sources. These are not things that you are committed to. And if you decide they don't belong in your paper, then dump them, get another one. That's totally fine. Okay. So I want you to just keep that in your mind as you're looking through your sources again. All right. So I've got my next article evaluation, and I'm going to find the findings again. This is the most important part. Go ahead and take that, and I'm going to copy and paste it into my new outline I'm creating here. Okay, let me share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. And I know this is very kind of tedious, isn't it? It's very slow kind of work. It doesn't seem very creative. And, you know, you're going to find that writing a research paper, particularly in APA, is kind of tedious like that. And that's okay. It's meant to be. It's not meant to be a fun, exciting, and creative process. I find it fun, but, you know, I'm a professor. All right, so let me go back here where we were, and we're going to go back to my second article evaluation. Let's take a look at what I took from this. Primary students are able to engage in dance and drama while meeting several physical education standards. Students appeared to show high levels of engagement and rated their experience positive. So we've got some data here that talks about how this school implemented performing arts, which is interesting. It's a little bit different than my previous one, but that's still relevant to my topic. So that's okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add the authors' names in here so that I don't forget. Instead, and Stevens. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at my third one. I'm going to pull up my third one for you here. We're going to take a look at this one. So the next one I have here says it's about a school-wide Olympics, how one school increased community focus on health. I'm going to remind you again, these are not real articles. I made them up, okay? This is just for the purpose of the process. So I'm going to go ahead, and now that I see that this is also about athletics, it's not quite about PE. It's about sort of maybe this extracurricular idea of doing an Olympics activity or some kind of a special event, it sounds like. And so I'm going to go ahead and take these findings, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to my outline. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to paste them in there. So this is a process I suggest you go ahead and do. If you are following along and trying to create your outline, open up all of your article evaluations, right? And find the findings section, okay? And go ahead and just copy and paste those into your outline. And it might seem like this isn't quite an outline yet. It's just a bunch of copied and pasted stuff. You're right, but this is the very beginnings of it. What we're going to do after we get all our findings here is we're going to go through and we're going to try and find like-minded ideas in here and create our outline from it. Okay. But it's a little less overwhelming than looking at the entire article, isn't it? It's much easier, I think. So let's go ahead and look at the fourth one. Okay, so we have physical fitness assessments and trends over time. So this one is an article that talks about a large set of data from 1999 to 2009. So this is a little bit different than the previous ones I've been looking at. Those ones have special events and, performing arts. They looked at specific schools and districts and what they were doing with athletics and physical activity. But this one looks like it's probably going to consider lots of different schools from lots of different places over time. So that's a good thing. It's a little bit different than my other data. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that as well. And share my screen with you again so you can see my outline is forming here. I'm just going to put all this stuff together, and I'm going to make sure I have my authors listed once again. And I've got one more. So let me go ahead and pull up my fifth one, and we'll take a look at that one. Okay, so here in this one, I have the benefits of sports for K through 5th grade students. All right, so this one is also about some kind of sports programs, and it looks at elementary school sports teams. Okay, so I got my findings here. This is what people figured out from this survey that they conducted with parents and teachers. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste that, and then I'm going to go back to my outline that I'm developing. And I'm going to paste my findings again. And I want you to realize that usually when people are developing an outline, they go through this kind of a process. Not everybody does this kind of a process. This is what I like to do, just to make sure that since it's a research paper, I've got my findings that are most important here. I really want to make sure I plan my paper around this. And if you remember in the previous video, I showed you how those students had used their article evaluations to plan their paper, and you could see evidence of that. So now you're seeing kind of the beginning steps of what you could do to follow in those same footsteps of those students. So I've got all my data here. And now that I've got this, I want to create an outline within the body of my paper, but I want to make sure that I cover the points that are listed here in this set of data that I've pulled from all these different findings. So definitely we have a couple different ideas. We have some that talk about PE, right? Like this one talks about PE. This one talks about performing arts. This one talks about an Olympics program. This one is PE again. And then this one is sports. So I see a few different things happening. I see two clear categories, and one is physical education as a class. And the other ones seem to be, if I could group them together, maybe extracurricular activities, right? So that makes sense. I'm probably going to want to make sure that I talk about my theory in here somewhere. Okay, whatever that is. I didn't really have an example of one planned out, but you could imagine I could find one probably related to child development or maybe even some kind of a social learning theory. If a lot of these talk about how it improves the social environment of the school, and it seems like a lot of them do. A lot of them talk about teamwork and self-confidence, those kinds of things. And maybe I would use a social learning theory. That might go nice here. But I definitely want to make sure that that's in there somewhere. Okay. So now I've got three major topics here that I want to cover in my paper. And what I want to do is figure out my main points that are going to go into these. And these will very likely later on become my major level 1 headings. Okay. So I'm going to just start with these two that are going to rely upon my articles. And what did I find out about PE? Well, let's go see. The main thing here that I thought stood out to me is that less than half of elementary teachers have support. And so they're ill prepared. There's lack of resources. So I'm just going to paraphrase here. Low in resources and preparation. Okay. There was another one that talked about PE, and I believe it's this one right here. This one says that assessment results stayed about the same for about 10 years. But they also mentioned that low-income schools have a downward trend, and researchers attribute this to a lack of resources and less time spent on PE in elementary schools. So that really matches what I see here: low resources and preparation. Low-income schools. I want to talk about low-income schools and how they're impacted. So my next section is extracurricular activities. You can start to see now it's starting to turn into a nice little outline, right? So my extracurricular activities ones would be this one, talks about dance and drama. I don't need that bolded. The next one down here, community school-wide Olympics program. Okay. So I'll just call it the Olympics here. And then the last one down here, we have, let's see, sports, right? We got a sports program. So let's go ahead and make a section called sports. All right. So I can already see now my theory. It will have, its own explanation in here, whatever that might be. I'm not going to give it a section though, because it might be short. You saw in those examples that you can either weave your theory throughout the paper in that previous video, or you can actually have a short section that just kind of summarizes it. Now, maybe you decided your theory is really the most important part and it needs several paragraphs. That's okay too. That's totally up to you. I'm just going to leave it blank for right now and just put theory to remind myself I need to add that in. But I'm going to use these subtopics, right? And I'm going to keep building on them. So what did I find out about dance and drama? Well, let's go look at the findings. Okay, so it appeared to show high levels of engagement. They were able to meet physical education standards. So that's good. Teachers felt the activities were positive for classroom culture and morale. Okay, so let's go ahead and list some of those things. I'm just going to paraphrase, right? Met PE standards. Oops. Okay. Positive morale. And we also said, let's see, more students were able to focus after increased physical activity. Ah, that's nice. Okay, so we've got some ideas from that one. Let's go ahead and go down and find our Olympics one and see what that one has to say. Okay, here it is at the top here. So we have here positive experience. Students were really excited about it. So we have, again, students very motivated, right? And then it improved the ongoing focus on physical activity in the community, right? So we have community engagement. That might be a topic I discuss. And I've got something about motivation in there that seemed important. Okay, let's go to the sports one. Here it says sports programs, exercise, and positive boost in self-confidence. Okay. And then teachers expressed that students learned about teamwork and were able to apply other concepts in school-related tasks. That sounds familiar. That sounds similar to some of the other ones. It looks like right here, teachers were able to connect other subjects with the Olympics. So I think when I write, I'm going to tie those together. It sounds like those authors have something in common. So I'm going to go ahead and summarize what I got out of this sports program. So we have self-confidence. What else did we say? We said also teamwork, and teachers tied concepts to other tasks. Okay. And what was the other thing I said? Confidence, teamwork. That's right. I think I'll put that with confidence. Seems like a character building kind of a thing. All right, so I have several things listed here, and I want you to see how, now that I've got my outline planned out, of course, I can move these or I can get rid of them, but I can save them on a different document, whatever. But these I might just kind of set aside somewhere else or put it at the bottom so I can refer back to them as I start building out this outline so that everything kind of flows together in the outline. Okay, so I've got my topic, I got my research question. Now I've kind of got a nice little plan for my paper. And I want to point out to you, this would be a level 1 heading. This would be a level 1 heading. These would be level 2 headings. This would be a level 1 heading, level 2, and level 3. So you can see that depending on how detailed my topic gets, I get level 2 and level 3 headings. So the next step would be to then take a look over here at this template that I gave you in the APA help folder and start filling that out, right? Putting your title, putting your section titles here, and then just slowly start copying and pasting some of the things from your annotated bibliography or from your article evaluations or even some of your journals if it's relevant. Some of the things you've already got written and put them in the relevant sections where they belong. And notice that I don't have to have symmetrical sections and headings, right? If you come back over here to my outline, you can see that my first section will only have one level 1 heading. That's it. My second section will have a level 1 and then also 2 level 2s. My third section, though, is going to have a level 1, 3 level 2s, and some level 3s. And that's totally fine. They don't need to match because this one has a lot more detail. Okay. So I hope that helped you see how we can take our article evaluations and create an outline and get started on your paper. Good luck and let me know if you need any more help. And I am available for meetings and further support. Keep up all your hard work.